frayed at the edges, and along with it, the rest of his mind. Insanity pulled at what was left, peeling away layer upon layer of his identity, until all that remained was a tiny core, a sealed unit that shimmered gold, holding the essence of who he was, who he had been, who he was yet to become. Reality snapped back into place with the impact and finesse of a sledgehammer. He stood firmly on cement just outside his dad's house. The only thing left to remind him of what had happened was the frozen sweat on his t-shirt and shorts. He fished through his pockets for his house keys, his body on autopilot. Feeling warmth flowing down his face, he wiped at his chin. His fingers came away bloody. He shambled to the front door, the world suddenly dull and bland. Normal. Incomplete. It had never been this bad before. Darwin placed his keys into the bowl by the front door. His motions were slow and careful, and he could already feel the headache starting to stab deep into his brain. It always happened after an episode. A sharp pain building until all he wanted to do was lie in a dark room and cry. And if the pain wasn't sufficient, the constant buzzing that accompanied it was enough to drive him crazy. The headache intensified, focusing on a spot behind his left eye. It felt like someone had scooped it out of the socket, poured Tabasco sauce into the gaping hole, and jammed the eyeball back into place. It was still better than being torn into thousands of pieces. And it was nowhere near as bad as waking up in a hospital after a car accident that stole your mother from you, leaving you scarred and clinging to life, even after being told the truth, that you would never see her again. The doctors had gotten rid of any physical signs of the accident, but he could still see where the scars had cut across his face, even if no one else could. No one had been able to get rid of the emotional ones, even after years of therapy with different psychologists and psychiatrists. When you were 16 years old and behind the wheel of a car going 75 miles an hour, the reason your mom was dead, those scars ran deeper than anyone knew. Her birthday was only a few days away, and that always brought the guilt to the surface, even after all these years. The pain in his head intensified, trying to shove the memories of his mother out of its way. He stumbled to the kitchen, the constant guilt he held onto for being alive when she was dead lashing out at him, and splashed cold water on his face. The liquid came back pink. He did it again and again, his fingers trembling, until the water ran clear. He couldn't find where the blood had come from. He grabbed a bottle of Advil from the cupboard and a can of Coke from the fridge to help wash it all down. Placing the can on the counter, he bent over and pressed the ice-cold aluminum against his eye until he saw stars. It didn't help, but it gave him a distraction as he fumbled with the lid of the bottle and poured 3 pills into his shaking hand. Grabbing the can off the counter, he shuffled to the living room and stared at the clock on the wall, struggling to bring it into focus. His mom had bought the monstrosity only days before the accident. The minute hand was easily 7 inches long, and the hour hand pointed just past what was supposed to be a Roman numeral 4. Whoever made the clock didn't know much about Roman numerals. The 4 was represented by 4 I's instead of IV, and it always bothered him. When he'd pointed it out to his mother, she just laughed and said she hadn't noticed. The time was 4:35. He dropped into a chair and cracked open the can, throwing the pills into his mouth and gulping the carbonated liquid. A hiccup followed the quick swallow, forcing the pills back up into his throat. He swallowed again. Soft drinks always made him hiccup, something he had inherited from his mom. It used to drive him nuts, but since she'd died, he just took it in stride. Mail from the day before sat in a neat